There's a voice inside your head, and it never shuts up. It says, "Not good enough. Try harder. Do it again. That's not right. You missed something. People will notice. Start over." And the worst part? You've been told that voice is a good thing, that it's your ambition, your drive, your high standards. Your entire life, people have praised you for listening to it. But I want to tell you something that might change everything. That voice is not your ally. It is not your coach. It is not making you better. That voice is slowly, quietly, systematically destroying you. The disguise. Perfectionism is one of the few forms of self-destruction that gets applauded. Think about that for a moment. If you drank too much, people would be concerned. If you worked too little, people would judge you. But if you work yourself into the ground chasing flawlessness, you get promoted. You get admired. You get called disciplined. We live in a culture that has confused perfectionism with excellence, but they are not the same thing. Excellence says, "I want to do my best." Perfectionism says, "My best is never enough." Excellence is a direction. You can move toward it and feel good about the movement. Perfectionism is a finish line that moves every time you get close. You can sprint your entire life and never arrive. And here's what nobody tells you about running a race you can never win. Eventually, you stop running. Not because you chose to, but because your body and your mind simply can't anymore. That's not laziness. That's not giving up. That's depression. How perfectionism becomes depression. The connection between perfectionism and depression is not a coincidence. It is a mechanism, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It works like this. Step 1. You set a standard that is impossibly high. Not high in the way that challenges you, high in the way that guarantees failure. Step 2. You fail to meet it, because of course you do. No human being can be flawless all the time. Step 3. Instead of adjusting the standard, you judge yourself. You replay the failure. You analyze what went wrong. You ruminate. And rumination, this is the crucial piece. Rumination is the bridge between perfectionism and depression. It is the mechanism that turns a single failure into a total identity collapse. Because you don't think, "I made a mistake." You think, "I am a mistake." The existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre describes something very close to this. He said that human beings are condemned to constantly compare who they are with who they think they should be. And the gap between those two, the real self and the ideal self, is the source of all human anguish. For most people, that gap is uncomfortable but manageable. For the perfectionist, that gap is everything. It is the only thing they see. And every day, every task, every interaction is measured against it. Did I say the right thing? Was my work good enough? Did they notice the mistake? Am I falling behind? And the body carries all of this. The shoulders that never drop, the jaw that clenches at night, the shallow breathing of someone who is always, always performing, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix because the vigilance never ends. Alfred Adler, one of the great psychologists of the 20th century, called this the striving for superiority. But he didn't mean it as a compliment. He meant it as a wound. The drive to be perfect is not a sign of strength. It is a sign that somewhere, very early, you learned that you were not acceptable as you were. Where it began. If I asked you to remember the first time you felt not good enough, you might not find a single dramatic moment. It's usually not one thing. It's a climate, a home where love was tied to performance, where praise came for results, not for effort, where the 95 on the test was met with, "What happened to the other 5?" Nobody sat you down and said, "You are only lovable when you're perfect." It was more subtle than that. It was in the smile that only appeared when you won, the attention that only came when you achieved, the warmth that was present when you performed and absent when you didn't. And so you learned the equation, silently, permanently. Love equals performance. And from that moment on, every task, every email, every project, every conversation, every meal you cook, every post you write became an exam, a test of your worth, an opportunity to earn love or lose it. That is an exhausting way to live. And it is no surprise that people who live this way eventually collapse, not because they're weak, because the system they're running is unsustainable. It was designed to fail. Permission to be ordinary. So how do you escape a trap you didn't know you were in? The first step is the most radical, and it sounds almost offensive to a perfectionist. Give yourself permission to be ordinary. I mean it, not as a motivational reframe, not as a clever trick, as a genuine, permanent decision to stop requiring yourself to be exceptional in order to deserve love, rest, or peace. The psychologist D.W. Winnicott had a term that I think is one of the most beautiful ideas in all of psychology. He called it good enough. He was originally talking about parenting, the good enough mother, not the perfect mother, the one who tries, fails, repairs, and keeps showing up, not flawlessly, just consistently. But the concept extends far beyond parenting. It extends to everything. What if your work didn't have to be perfect? What if it just had to be good enough? What if your body didn't have to be ideal? What if it just had to be yours? What if your life didn't have to be exceptional? What if it just had to be lived? Good enough is not a consolation prize. It is not settling. It is not mediocrity. Good enough is the only place where real life actually happens. Because perfection is a locked room. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. No air, no mess, no surprise, no growth. It is beautiful and it is dead. Good enough is alive. It breathes. It makes mistakes. It has cracks in the wall and dishes in the sink and half-finished projects and friendships that are messy and a body that is tired sometimes. And it is so much more real than anything perfection could ever offer. The second step is this: learn to catch the voice, the one that says, not good enough. And when you catch it, and this is the hard part, don't argue with it. Don't fight it. Don't try to prove it wrong. Just notice it and ask, whose voice is that, really? Because in most cases, it's not yours. It's an old recording, a parent, a teacher, a culture, a system that installed itself so early that you thought it was your own operating system. It's not. You can update the software. And the third step, and this is where the body comes in, is to physically practice imperfection. Send the email without rereading it a fourth time. Leave the house with your hair like that. Cook a meal that is just okay. Say the thing you're thinking without rehearsing it first. And then notice, did the world end? Did people leave? Did your worth actually decrease? It didn't. It never does. The catastrophe the perfectionist fears has never once arrived. So here's the lesson nobody taught you about perfectionism. It is not a gift. It is not a superpower. It is not what makes you good at what you do. It is a prison built by a child who believed they had to be flawless to be loved. And you've been living in that prison so long that you've mistaken the walls for your own skin. But the walls are not you. The voice is not you. The impossible standard is not you. You are the person underneath all of that, the one who's tired, the one who's been running a race with no finish line and calling it discipline. And that person, the real one, the imperfect one, the one who sometimes fails and sometimes rests and sometimes does things that are just okay, that person is enough. Not because they achieved enough, not because they earned it, but because enough was never something you had to earn. It was something you always were. If you recognized yourself in this video, if that voice in your head got a little quieter for a moment, then something just shifted. And that's enough for today. This is part of a series called Lessons Nobody Taught You. Each video is a chapter of a bigger story about the things we were never told but always needed to hear. The next one is waiting. No rush.